Welcome to my autobiographical perspectives on well-being. My name is Melissa Hippolyte. In my understanding, well-being is an interaction and combination of different factors: physical, social, emotional, spiritual, and intellectual wellness that forms the building blocks of life. Manny Morton 2013, when highlighting the factors of well-being, states that rather than just a loose collection and the consistent emphasis on their interconnectedness and interdependence of all aspects of well-being shows a strongly holistic concept of well-being. Miller R. 2000 states that holistic education is an effort to cultivate the development of the whole human being. Kosher Bryant, C.A., and H. Hensman, A. 2010 supports Miller's idea that the holistic approach recognizes that to become a full person, a growing child needs to develop, in addition to intellectual skills, physical, psychological, emotional, interpersonal, moral, and spirited potentials. Pioneers such as Maria Montessori and Rudolf Steiner, among others, all insisted that education should be understood as an art of cultivating the moral, emotional, physical, psychological, and spirited dimensions of the developing child. He also claimed that the child is not merely a future citizen or employee in training, but an intricate and delicate web of vital forces and environmental influences. In my background, growing up in the small island of St. Lucia, my formal education was anything but holistic. It was mainly set on an achievement transmission model as described by Miller. I grew up in a small island where the education system was set out that children should achieve. I entered the system at the age of 5, which would be known as kindergarten, and those days was called stage 1. That's 30 years ago. The school was nested in a natural setting, as most schools. The classroom in its time, there was a long desk and chair to accommodate 2 children at one time. The desks were arranged either in rows or groups at any point in time. We spent a lot of time outdoors doing schoolwork, which would be like workbooks, writing notes, some of the same things we would have done indoors. I could remember in stage that we would do subjects like phonics and math and science, which was separated. My education and learning was always teacher-centered. The teacher was respected and considered a god of all-knowing wisdom. We did lots of cultural activities, dances, cultural demonstration and participation. There were 3 terms in the school year, at the end of which we would complete tests, and these would serve as our grades. Throughout my primary school years up to standard 4, the curriculum would be based on getting us ready for the common entrance exam. The common entrance exam in those days was where after you sit that exam about the age of 11, 12, you would attend the high school, and your grades would determine which high school you would attend. The highest grade would attend the most prestigious high schools and so forth. So your grades would determine how far you would go in life, if you go any further into education. And if you fail, you have a second chance, but then if you don't, at a second chance again, your parents will have to find you a school of their own. It was a very stressful experience for any child in those times, and it would not be what Miller would describe as holistic, I would say. My physical and social wellness. Physically, I could remember there's a big tree at the back of the school where every child would climb onto. You would climb down with your friends and have lots of fun. This tree had different levels in it and would accommodate at least 15 children at any time. It was the hangout spot. We had 15 minutes break in the morning, then we had an hour lunch, and during which those times we were not supervised in any way. We would abide by the rules to the best of our abilities, and we would climb, run, roam free, jump around, interact with our friends and nature and so forth. The children in the LMU NCB project, as described by Manny Morton, emphasized being and playing outdoors as an important part of their well-being. Manny Morton also states that physical being is more than just physical growth and health, but includes things such as how children are able to use their bodies, experience physical mastery, and celebrate what their bodies can do. And that we did. Our health was not neglected in any way. I can remember attending, having dental people coming in, getting vaccination during school hours. Every child had to line up during the week, at least twice or 3 times a week during the break time, to get a glass of milk, which I hope I drank. Emotional well-being. According to the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, social and emotional well-being provides personal competences such as emotional resilience, self-esteem, interpersonal skills, and that help to protect against risk relating to social disadvantages, family disruptions, and other diverse adversities in life. My emotional wellness was not closely guarded. During my formal education years, reward and punishment was more the classroom norm or classroom management. I was rather a sensitive soul, and I can remember myself crying most of the time out of the fear of punishment or corporal punishment in those times. We were rewarded openly, we were also punished openly. My educational state would depend largely on who was my teacher in that school year, who I had a wonderful teacher, and some grades I would rather forget. Owen A. suggests that when children experience secure, supportive relationships, they feel respected and valued, and in turn they become confident individuals. Throughout my formal education years, I struggle with that confidence. And even when speaking with persons in authority, still, the fear of being reprimanded was always there. Spiritual and cultural wellness. I attend a religious and public school at the same time, as most schools were in my days. So we were always spiritually charged to become good citizens, be positive, love others as ourselves. These teachings, which I would take with me in my life today to make me more of a positive, confident, and trusting person. These lessons have given me a sense of peace in God and helped me overcome many of my challenges. Our culture played a pivotal role in shaping our personality and sense of belonging. We celebrated lots of days like National Day observances, Festival of Lights, Creole Day, La Rose and Margaret festivals of the flower, to Christmas, Easter, Independence, Carnival. All these observances played a part in making us a whole person, and I guess makes us better persons. Intellectual and cognitive wellness. Much of my school days was spent at a desk doing teacher-directed work in the form of workbook, worksheets. Mental maths, spellings, phonics, language arts, science were the norms of my days. As much as we had 2 languages spoken in the country, we were only allowed to speak one language, which is English. French Creole, our second language, was thought to be a language of the uneducated, so we would participate in that language only on the playground, not in the classroom. Therefore, it was not used in the classroom. Well, that has changed. As Miller 2000 rightly states, a holistic education is done not through academic curriculum, but condenses the world into instructional packages, but through direct engagement with the environment. My teachers worked towards preparing us for a common entrance exam, which would be the end of our elementary years, and the focus was on which children would perform the best, which school, which community in the island. My education failed to realize that every child is more than a future employee. Every person's intelligence and abilities are far more complex than his or her scores on standardized tests, as Miller described. In conclusion, I would say that well-being, as I described it, is dynamic. The experiences that I have described may not seem ideal or best-cut situations for us when viewed from the child-centered point of view, but in that social setting and culture, having solid intellectual and physical wellness was most important to families then and educators, and the children would just had to learn how to toughen it out. Kosher Bryant et al. 2010 states that the quest for holistic education requires that educational experiences and environments be adapted to the developmental path of the individual, rather than the individual adapted to the environment. Although my physical well-being was given the right environment and could have flourished, it met its limitations as my emotional well-being was unstable. Confronted with constant fear of punishment and shame, I was always near tears, and I could remember always having a runny nose. Manny Morton, 2013, states that the idea that children's negative emotional experiences create stresses that impact negatively on the immune system and their physical growth and development. Manny Morton also described well-being as a web. Touch the web anywhere and the effects are felt throughout. Freeman, 2005. Hence, I would like to agree with Ron Miller and echo the fact that education needs to be holistic when considering the well-being of young children. The whole child should be taken into consideration when learning needs to take place. Education should be an art of cultivating the moral, emotional, and physical, psychological, spiritual dimensions of the developing child. Given my education experience, without a strong family unit, a good spiritual wellness and community, I would have easily fallen through the cracks as many of my colleagues. Although a true holistic model, as described by Miller, would not only involve the school, but the families and community. Holistic education is based on the premise that each person finds identity, meaning, and purpose in their life through connections to the community, to the natural world, to spiritual values such as compassion and peace. Miller, 2000. Cohort Bryan et al. Outlines what would, according to the Commission of the Whole Child in 2007, gave a complete picture as to what the whole child would look like. And she would go into saying that the whole child is intellectually active, physically, verbally, socially and academically competent, empathetic, kind, caring and fair, creative and curious, disciplined, self-directed and goal-oriented, free and a critical thinker, confident and cared for and valued. And that would be the whole child perspective. A child who is completely taught in the whole system. Thank you for viewing.